I'm Trish Hatley, president of NSPE, and I'm pleased to welcome you this evening to join us for the 2021 NSPE annual installation ceremony. Whether you're participating tonight with us here in Alexandria, Virginia, or virtually, the appreciation that we feel for the contributions and accomplishments of the individuals we recognize tonight is very real. We thank them all for answering the call to service to NSPE and to the professional engineering community. Before we begin the installation ceremony, let me recognize an important group of individuals we owe so much to. Over the past 86 years, 82 individuals have served as NSPE president with great dedication and distinction. We hope that many of these leaders are watching the ceremony today, and I wish to say thank you for your service. Sadly, we lost several of these extraordinary individuals over the past year, including Robert Bob S. Miller III, PE Fellow NSPE, President from 2006 to 2007, and NSPE Education Foundation President from 2009 to 2012. Bob passed on December 3rd, 2020. Howard N. Blitman, PE Fellow NSPE, President from 2002 to 2003, and he passed on January 2nd, 2021. And Bernard Bernie R. Burson, PE Fellow NSPE LS, President from 2007 to 2008, and he passed on March 17th, 2021. And lastly, Jack D. Hinton, PE Fellow NSPE, President from 1996 to 1997, and he passed on May 9th, 2021. We also lost one of our past executive directors, Russell C. Jones, PhD, PE, Executive Director from 1985 to 1998. He passed on May 8th, 2021. You can read more about the stellar contributions each of these individuals made, not only to NSPE, but to the engineering industry in the PE magazine. We're going to pause now for a moment of silence to honor them. Thank you. One of these distinguished past presidents who is here with us today is Cody Jean Verhalen, PE Fellow NSPE Esquire. Cody joined NSPE as president from 2016 to 2017. At this time, I would like to welcome Cody to the dais as she officiates this year's installation.
I have to raise this a little bit. Thank you, Trish. And I am deeply honored to serve as this year's installing officer. So first, it's my honor. Shouldn't have looked at you. First, it is my honor to recognize our incoming president, Rick J. Guerra, PE, Fellow NSPE. And to start, I would like to read a poem that someone introduced me to recently that I thought, you guys started this like an hour ago, 2 hours ago. I blame the two of you. That I thought would be, it really hit home for me thinking about my term as president, and I thought it might be some wisdom to you. It's a poem called Things You Didn't Put on Your Resume by Joyce Sutphin. How often you got up in the middle of the night when one of your children had a bad dream, and sometimes you woke because you thought you heard a cry, but they were all sleeping. So you stood in the moonlight just listening to their breathing. Shouldn't have looked at my husband either. And you didn't mention that you were an expert at putting toothpaste on tiny toothbrushes and bending down to wiggle the toothbrush 10 times on each tooth while you sang the words to Annie. And who would suspect that you knew all the fingerings to the songs from the first 4 books of the Suzuki violin method, and that you can do the voices of Pooh and Piglet especially well, though your absolute favorite thing to read out loud is Bedtime for Francis, and that you picked up your way of reading it from Glynis Johns. And it is, now that you think of it, rather impressive that you read all the Narnia books, all of the Rings trilogy, and too many others to mention here. And you did that all to them before they went to bed. And then on the way out to Yellowstone, which is another thing you don't put on that resume, you think about how you took them to the ocean and the mountains and brought them safely home. Well, your beautiful children are now grown. I'll sit behind you. The sentiment of this poem will continue to the next year of your presidency. And while your resume and your LinkedIn pages will eventually read past president of NSPE, and your name will be added to the list of past presidents on both the NSPE webpage and the Wikipedia page, there will be many facets of this year that you won't put on your resume, but each of them will shape you in immeasurable ways. Like the 50-year member of NSPE who regale you with stories of their illustrious career and time with the organization that reignites a passion inside of you. Like the state or national leader who wants to discuss a new idea with you or is looking for a little extra encouragement. The college student who hasn't even yet taken the fundamentals of engineering exam, but really is looking for mentors and guidance in their career. The staff member who's been diligently working to create a solution who just needs to hear thank you. And all of the laughs, the tears, the moments of exasperation and triumph, the hard work, tough conversations, collaborative connections, and the time in the airports where you're just waiting. We are all looking forward to watching all of these things that you won't put on your resume, and so many more, Rick. So at this time, we invite our new and continuing 2021-22 directors of NSPE to join me up on the carpet. When I call your name, please come to the front of the room or turn on your video if you're joining us remotely. You will see on the slide before you all the various regions, interest groups, and organizations represented by these dedicated individuals. So please welcome James S. Baker, PE. Randall J. Breaker, PE, fellow NSPE. Michael C. Harris, PE, fellow NSPE. Brian Malm, PE, fellow NSPE. Laura Polizzi, PE, fellow NSPE. Benjamin T. Railsback, PE, fellow NSPE. Megan J. Schultz, PE. K. James Taylor, Jr., PE. Robert Udine, PE, fellow NSPE, and Breck Washam, PE. Additional board members, 3 of whom are designated on an ex officio basis, should also join us and carefully organize the Tetris thing we've got going on up here. Michael E. Aiken, PE, fellow NSPE. Harvey D. Natick, PE, fellow NSPE. Nancy Hoynes, RLA. And Monica Schultz, CAE. So as no, you're good. As the directors come into view here, for all of you watching virtually, I will now introduce the NSPE officers who should join us in the front of the room. Rick J. Guerra, PE, fellow NSPE. Oh, got it. Britt E. Smith, PE, fellow NSPE, president-elect. William E. Atkinson, PE, vice president. Trisha H. Hatley, PE, fellow NSPE, immediate past president. And Robert H. Price, PE, fellow NSPE, treasurer, who's joining us remotely. I would like to ask those who've been identified as 2021, 2023 delegates of the 2022 delegates of the NSPE House of Delegates who may be watching to also stand at their seats. As officers, directors, and delegates of the National Society of Professional Engineers, you will represent the true meaning of a professional engineer. You will be our collective voice for the National Society. Thus, you will be our common bond with professional engineers throughout the United States. It is important that this bond, strong and unblemished, be preserved. Professional engineers determined to give an honorable and useful accounting of our special talents to our clients, the people of America, we must present a unified front in our professional endeavors. We must be examples in which the public has confidence, that they may learn they can depend on us in matters affecting their health, safety, and welfare, and in contributing to the advancements that benefit society. Only thus shall we grow and fulfill the highest ideals of mankind, that the world will be a better place because of our contributions. Would you all please raise your right hand, officers, directors, and delegates? Do you now, officers, directors, and delegates of the National Society of Professional Engineers, in the presence of these fellow members and family, pledge yourselves to discharge faithfully the duties of the office to which you have been elected? If so, please answer, I will.
I will.
Officer, you can take your hands down. But I ask you to recite after me the engineer's creed. As a professional engineer, I dedicate my professional knowledge to the advancement and betterment of human welfare. I pledge to give the utmost of performance to participate in none but honest enterprise, to live and work according to the laws of man and the highest standards of professional conduct, to place service before profit, the honor and standing of my profession before personal advantage, and the public welfare above all other considerations. I pledge to uphold the bylaws of the National Society of Professional Engineers in humility and with the need for divine guidance. I make this pledge. Any NSPE members who are watching the live stream or are here in the room are invited to stand where you are. You have heard the pledges of your officers-elect, delegates, and delegates. Unless they have your wholehearted support, they will not be able to fulfill their pledge so faithfully given. Do you therefore promise to support them, your officers, directors, and delegates, as they guide the society through the coming year? Will you assist them whenever you are called upon to help in undertaking various activities? Will you encourage and advise them and refrain from unjust criticism of their plans and actions? If so, please answer, I will. Let these mutual pledges be your commitment to the National Society of Professional Engineers and its continued dedication to the principled practice of engineering. So will the officers, directors, and delegates please remain standing? Everyone else may be seated. As a representative of the president of the National Society of Professional Engineers, I hereby install each of you into the office to which you have been elected. To all those in attendance and watching at home, I present your new officers and directors, so please join me in a round of applause to show our appreciation. You may all return to your seats except for past President Hatley and President Guerra. And for anyone who's joining us virtually, you can turn off your cameras at this time. As is customary, I ask past President Hatley to pass the gavel to newly installed President Guerra, thereby symbolically transferring authority and responsibility for leadership to him and the new officers and directors. Nope, stay. As is also tradition, past President Hatley will receive the Presidential Medallion for commemorating her time as president. I now invite President Guerra to present that to past President Hatley. Thank you both. But I now invite you, all of you in the room and in attendance, to hear a few words from our new president of the National Society of Professional Engineers, Rick Guerra.
Thank you, Cody, for those inspiring words. As my first official act as president, it is only fitting to recognize the outgoing members of the NSPE board who have provided dedicated service and direction to our work this past year. The society saw great progress, and board members worked closely to support one another and provide guidance along the way. I'd like to recognize the following and ask that they come to the front of the room or turn on their cameras. David P. Martini, PE, fellow NSPE, past president. Susan K. Sprague, PE, treasurer. James A. Buggs, PE, fellow NSPE, Central Region Director. David L. McCullough, PE, fellow NSPE, PTOE, Northeast Region Director. Zia Yazrovi, PE, Southwest Region Director. Breger A. Garrison, PE, New Professionals Director. Adam B. Jones, President, State Society Executives Council. And Paul J. Inferrera, SET, Chair, NICET Board of Governors. Thank you all for your service, especially during this very unpredictable and challenging year. Thank you. Cody, I have to say, I really appreciate that poem. My Piglet and Pooh aren't what they used to be. But all of those things that you mentioned, what's not on the resume is what's so important to me. And that's why I do what I do. That's why I do this, because of all those opportunities to be with the very special people that we have the pleasure and the privilege of representing. So I look forward to that 50-year-old member coming to me with a new idea or talking to all our members about anything they want to talk about as we move forward and make this organization the best that it can be. So thank you for those incredible words. So how in the world did I get here? 27 years ago, I joined NSPE and said, I want to learn how to become an engineering leader. Who knew? As I begin my term as your 83rd president, I'd like to fill in a few more details and give you a glimpse into the person of Rick Guerra that will be representing you in the coming year. We all have people in our lives who have profoundly impacted our lives, shaped our development, and influenced our path in life. I'm no different. I want to introduce you to and recognize some of the people who have inspired, motivated, and driven me to be the person, the engineer, and the leader that I am today. Let's start with my children. My oldest daughter, Alex, and her husband, Nathan, are here with us tonight. You guys wave. Alex and Nathan are both biomedical engineers in Minneapolis. Working in the biomedical device industry, they are doing incredible things to improve the quality and sustainability of life for people all around the world. My daughter, Danielle, who wanted to shout out, is a neonatal intensive care nurse in Houston, caring for the most critically ill and vulnerable babies in the state of Texas. My daughter, Nina, who's not with us tonight, is a junior at Iowa State University studying elementary education. She will undoubtedly go on to become the incredible kindergarten teacher she's always dreamed of being. And my son, Andrew, the handsome young man in the middle there, who will be headed off to University of Minnesota this fall to study computer science. Andrew's ultimate career goal is to teach computer science at the collegiate level. As an honor student, an Eagle Scout, and an all-state bass clarinetist, he clearly has the drive and determination to get him there. Watching my children grow and develop into the exceptional human beings that they are has always inspired me to be the best version of myself. So thank you, guys. Thank you. My wife, Ann. To say that Ann is my better half would be a gross understatement. Ann is my partner in life, in business, and in parenting. She is my best friend and completes me in every sense of the word. With Ann's eternal support and encouragement, I've experienced success in business, fulfillment as a husband and a father, and professional growth and advancement as an engineering leader. Thank you, Ann. I love you very much. I also want to take this opportunity to recognize and thank my parents, Jose and Bertha Guerra, for everything that they have done for me and the engineering profession. My father is a career PE and a rock star in the engineering world. He's a past president of the Texas Society of Professional Engineers and chairman emeritus of the Texas State Board of Engineers and Land Surveyors. He has served NSPE at the local, state, national, and international levels for most of his adult career. It is among the few Texans to ever receive the NSPE award, the highest award presented to an engineer for outstanding contributions to the engineering profession, the public welfare, and humankind. Fun fact about me and Dad, we're the only father-son duo to ever have served as presidents of the Texas Society of Professional Engineers in the 85-year history of that organization. My mother is a retired registered nurse. Although not an engineer, she has also received rock star status in our profession. She worked alongside Dad from the very beginning of his career and probably deserves much of the credit for his engineering accomplishments, much like Ann deserves credit for mine. Mom served as president of the auxiliary to NSPE at the local, state, and national levels, where her efforts led to the raising of hundreds of thousands of dollars and the endowments of engineering scholarships for TSPE and NSPE. Considering her service to NSPE, I'm also proud to say that my mom and I are the only mother-son duo to ever serve as national presidents for this organization. It was my mom and dad that inspired me to pursue the profession that I love and join this organization that has changed my life forever. And lastly, I need to recognize my many mentors and friends from TSPE and NSPE who have taught me and challenged me as a person and as an engineer. These individuals taught me how to lead and inspired me to use my God-given talents to make the world a better and safer place. They modeled servant leadership and demonstrated through their actions how to improve our profession for those that would follow behind us. This group is too large to mention individually tonight. So I'll set aside time over the next several weeks to reach out to each of them personally and let them know what they've meant to me in my life and my career. Going back to my original question, how on earth did I get here? Hearing about the people that impacted my life at least partially answers that question. But how does one ascend to the presidency of the only organization that represents the interest of the individual licensed professional engineer in this country? And why would anyone want to? I joined NSPE through the Texas Society of Professional Engineers in 1994. As I mentioned earlier, I promptly announced that I wanted to learn how to be an engineering leader. If they had told me then that I would eventually become the state or national president of the organization, I would have laughed, or more probably run the other direction. Instead, at my very first chapter meeting, I was appointed chairman of the membership committee. I went on to serve in every board position at the local level before rising to do the same at the state level. Through the experience, I learned how to organize and run a meeting, how to manage and lead groups of people, and how to inspire and foster collaboration in pursuit of a common mission. My wish to become an engineering leader was certainly fulfilled by this organization. Almost everything I know about engineering leadership, integrity, ethics, and professionalism, I learned from this organization or from members of this organization. When I first joined, I already had a great sense of pride in being an engineer. I understood that we engineers are in the business of making the impossible possible with everything we do on a daily basis. Growing up with a father who was a licensed professional engineer, I also had a good sense for the meaning and purpose of the engineering license. I was already a PE myself and took considerable pride in the designation as a symbol of achievement. I saw the PE as the highest credential available to members of our profession and a great accomplishment. It wasn't until a few years later that I began to appreciate and take pride in what the PE really represents. I believe that every PE reaches a point in their career when they realize that what we do is bigger than each of us as individual engineers. Some start their careers with the expectation that the work that they do will have real and lasting impact on the world. Others of us discover our potential and the profound impact we make at a later stage in our career. For me, it was when I first learned of the event that led to the enactment of the Engineering Practice Act in Texas. In 1937, a natural gas explosion destroyed the school at New London, Texas. The explosion, attributed to a faulty gas line connection, killed 297 students and teachers, making it the deadliest school disaster in American history. I heard this story for the first time 6 years after I had earned my PE license in Texas. To this day, I carry the images of that deadly explosion in my head. And from that day forward, I committed my engineering knowledge and practice to ensuring that no such tragedy ever results from the work that I do. Each of us has our own PE story, unique and personal to us. But we all share a commitment to a high standard of competence, professionalism, and ethical behavior that sets us apart. We place service before profit, the honor and standing of our profession above personal advantage, and the public welfare above all other considerations. In today's world, that makes us extraordinary. Over the years, my pride for the PE has grown, not for what it means as a symbol of achievement, but for the noble purpose it represents. I love the work that we do as licensed professional engineers and the valuable service we provide to the public. I could not be prouder than I am to be counted among your ranks. Representing you as your NSPE president will undoubtedly be the greatest thrill and honor of my professional life. But as I begin my year as your president, I have a favor to ask of you. Over the past 2 years, our NSPE government relations staff has tracked almost 500 bills filed across the country that were meant to erode, dilute, or eliminate engineering licensure. The sheer volume of these filings is a clear indication that the public, and more importantly, our legislators, have lost sight of the necessary purpose of engineering licensure and the safety and security it provides to our citizens. Currently, the conversation about engineering licensure revolves around the perceived inconvenience it imposes and the alleged barriers it creates to entry into our profession. The essential purpose and benefits of engineering licensure have been missing from the conversation. This year, I'd like to start a national movement to change the conversation about engineering licensure around the country. I will gladly be the torchbearer for this movement. However, to make a real difference, to have far-reaching impact, we must raise our collective voices and tell our story together. To that end, I'm asking each of you to take 3 simple actions from this day forward, not for me, but for our profession and for the public we serve. First, change the way you introduce yourself. When someone asks you what you do, stop saying that you're a civil engineer, a mechanical engineer, or an electrical engineer. Instead, introduce yourself as a licensed professional engineer. While the difference may seem subtle to some, there's a big difference. By introducing yourself as a civil or mechanical or electrical engineer, you're selling yourself short and doing the profession and the public a disservice. The public needs to know the difference. And if they don't hear it from us, they're not going to hear it at all. No one's telling our story. So we must tell it ourselves. Second, get to know each other. When you gather at chapter meetings or even meet with other PEs individually or in small groups, get to know each other, not only on a personal level, but also on a professional level. Ask your fellow PEs why they are proud to be PEs and what they're most proud of in their professional life. I can assure you that the answers you will get will inspire you and remind you why engineering licensure matters. Then, when you are asked similar questions, you'll be equipped to tell the important story of the licensed practice of engineering and the fidelity and commitment of the PE to the public health, safety, and welfare of the built environment. And third, whenever you use social media to post anything remotely related to engineering, use the hashtag #ProudPE. If enough of us do this, it will spur questions about the hashtag. and provide additional opportunities for us to tell our important story. So to recap, starting today, I'm asking you to introduce yourselves as licensed professional engineers. Get to know your fellow PEs and use the hashtag ProudPE. Doing these 3 simple things will set us up to change the conversation about engineering licensure around the country and stem the tide of harmful anti-licensure bills. Together we can and we will make a difference. Standing before you this evening as your new NSPE president, I am honored and humbled beyond words. I pledge my full commitment and dedication to advancing the mission of NSPE and will do everything in my power to live up to the highest standards set for this office. I look forward to working with all of you to promote and enhance our noble profession. Thank you.